Hey guys, this is Claire Pratia from Bearydo Papery, and in this video I am talking about my stamp design process for the Swans and Cattails stamp set by Hero Arts. So if you haven't seen any of the previous videos, I'm not going to do this whole spiel every time. This will be the last time I do it, but if you haven't seen any of the previous videos, I get to design stamps for Hero Arts every now and then. It's purely on a freelance basis. I'm not part of their design team or anything. And it's a really cool opportunity, and a lot of people had some questions about kind of how that process worked. So in the previous two videos, I think I talked more about the inspiration behind some of the stamp sets themselves and kind of how the process works with Hero Arts, like me giving them the file, etc. So again, if you want to hear more about that stuff, you can look at the other videos. In this video, I'm going to try to keep things a little more technical because I had some questions about that. So yeah, this video is just going to be a little more technical. So the Swans and Cattails stamp set is probably one of my favorite stamp sets that I've designed. I just think the swans are really cute. There's a lot of variety. And the inspiration for them started, I think I was at work, and I was looking up some sentiments for Valentine cards that I was making at work. And at some point I saw a vintage swan. I don't even think it was a card. I think it was just a little vintage swan image. And I thought it was really pretty. And then that made me think, oh, I don't have any swan stamp sets, and I think this could be kind of cute. I guess that's kind of when I'm designing stamp sets. Usually I try to think of images that either haven't been done a whole lot, because most images have been done before, most themes have. So either ones that haven't been done a lot, or ones that I can put maybe a little clever twist on. And swans was something that at the time I was designing the stamp set, I hadn't seen that many swan stamp sets. I think there's a couple more out there now. I think My Favorite Things has one. Actually, that's the only one I know of off the top of my head. But I'm pretty sure there are some other companies that have those now. So anyway, I started sketching and doodling during breaks at work, or when I was waiting for a huge Photoshop document to load. And that's pretty much the inspiration for the swans. And now onto the technical side. So first, I mean, this process kind of changes for every stamp set, because like the process from when I first started designing them to how I design them now is a bit different, just because I've grown more comfortable with what I need to do. I've grown more efficient, and I figured out ways to make things more efficient and cleaner. So it's probably going to be a little bit different in these videos. But for this specific stamp set, what I did was, and I pretty much do this still for most stamp sets, is I took my sketch and my doodles and I took a picture of it with my iPad. I have an iPad Pro. It's 9.7 inch, I think. I don't remember what edition or whatever it is. I just know that it works with the Apple Pencil, which is what I use along with my iPad, and then an app called Procreate. So I mentioned this app before in a previous video, maybe both previous videos, and it's an amazing art app. It's what I use it for, at least when it comes to designing stamps, is just basically a bare minimum. I'm using it basically as a drawing tablet, just for going over my sketches and refining them. I actually have a drawing tablet. It's a Wacom drawing tablet, but I just prefer using my iPad just because it's a lot more intuitive to me. So I have the iPad, I have the Procreate app, and I have the Apple Pencil. So I take a picture of my sketch, and then I take it into Procreate. I turn the layer opacity down so that while I'm drawing over the sketch, it'll be pretty distinct between the sketch and what I'm drawing currently, but the sketch will provide me enough guidance so I can actually trace it. And after I trace it, depending on the stamp set, there can be a lot of refining done. The swans came along pretty quickly, I think just because they have such nice curves, and I was more familiar with the shape of a swan. Just, over the years I've seen more swans. Unlike meerkats, which I mentioned in my other video, that took a lot of refining. I just wasn't as familiar with their shape, and they were just awkward. The swans were good. After I've traced them, with this particular stamp set, I took it into Photoshop and then I arranged it in a 4x6 format, because that's what most clear stamp sets come in. I could have arranged it on a 4x6 format in Procreate. I just didn't. I just didn't for the stamp set. I think it's a little bit inhibiting for me to have that particular 4x6 layout right away. I think it's easier for me to sketch out a bunch of different doodles and then arrange what doodles I like the best, arrange them in that 4x6 format later, and then I have a better idea of how things need to be sized. So after I arranged it in Photoshop in that 4x6 format, then I might take it back into Procreate for more retouching, which is what I did do with this Swan stamp set. And after I finished, that final retouching, then I take it back into Photoshop and I copy the layers. Sometimes I'll separate the layers, sometimes I'll combine them, but I have to do it in a way where I keep their proportion, because if I copy one layer and then I paste it into Illustrator, and then I copy a different layer and I paste it into Illustrator, I just have to be careful about watching their proportions, because it can get a little off. That's something that I noticed when I first started designing stamps. It wasn't something I was paying as much attention to, so some of the stroke weights would be a little bit off. So I had to make sure that now when I'm pasting things into Illustrator that I keep them all the same size before I start resizing them down. So after I pasted them into Illustrator, then I will use Image Trace, and I have a particular preset that I use. It's not something that I downloaded from any other place. It's just something that I've played around with, and I've gotten to a good setting that works well with most of the styles of stamps that I illustrate. So after I've image traced it in Illustrator, depending on how much of the grunt work, I guess, I've done earlier in Photoshop and Procreate, it can be just a simple image tracing, and then I save it out as an Illustrator document. Or oftentimes, though, I'll kind of play around with things in Illustrator just a little bit more, just to get sizing better. And then I save it as an Illustrator file, and that's pretty much it. Sometimes I will refine some of the files that I've image traced. I mean, oftentimes I do refine it. I might go in with the smooth tool to smooth some lines out. Sometimes the image trace will pick up extra little bits, which I kind of have to get rid of. But for the most part, that's pretty much the process right there. And that finishes off the Swans and Cattails stamp set. So if you have any questions for stamp designing, like I mentioned in my first video, it is probably different for every single stamp designer out there. So my process is probably maybe similar in some parts, but probably different in other parts. But if you have any particular questions about it, I can at least answer from my point of view. And yeah, just keep leaving comments. That's kind of what is motivating me to make these videos. It usually takes a while for me to make a video, to narrate it, to get it where it's actually kind of quiet in this house. I don't know if you can hear my brother stomping upstairs. But yeah, it kind of takes me a while to make videos in general, which is why I haven't done an actual card video in a while. So if you actually do want to see things, then, I hate to say it, but you kind of do need to comment. Otherwise, I'm just going to be lazy and I'm not going to make anything. I'm just going to stick to the blog and just posting pictures. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed, and let me know if you have any questions. Have a great day. God bless.